The name is Mastema, and in Hebrew it means hostility itself. And according to one ancient text, he's the reason 9 out of every 10 demons on earth were bound in chains, while 1 out of 10 was deliberately, permanently left free to work exactly as he intended. If you watched the last investigation, you already know the spirits of the giants didn't vanish when the flood came. Their bodies died, their spirits didn't, and Enoch says they were bound, reserved for a judgment still to come. What Enoch doesn't tell you is what happened next. The Book of Jubilees does, and the detail it adds is stranger than anything in the first investigation. Generations after the flood, Noah's own grandchildren start dying, led astray, blinded, and slain, the text says, by demons nobody could see coming. Picture what that actually looked like inside Noah's own household. A family that survived the one event meant to wipe out every evil thing on earth, watching sickness and confusion move through their own children anyway, as if the flood had only ever solved half the problem. Noah goes straight to God in prayer, the same God who saved him from the flood itself, and asks for the one thing any grandfather would ask: protect what's left of my family. And God answers by commanding that every evil spirit be bound, all of them, completely, which should be the end of the story, right there. Except Mastema steps in before the order is finished. Understand who's actually speaking here. Jubilees uses this name almost exclusively, and scholars have long connected it to the same Hebrew root behind the word Satan, the adversary. This isn't a minor demon negotiating for scraps. This is the chief of the spirits himself, standing in the same conversation as God, making his case directly. He doesn't deny what he is. He says plainly that if none of the spirits are left to him, he has no way left to carry out corruption on the earth before his judgment finally arrives. And God grants it. 9 parts descend into the place of condemnation. 1 part remains deliberately under Mastema's own authority, free to work exactly the way he intended. Sit with that for a moment, because it's not what most people assume happens in a story like this. God didn't lose that negotiation, and he didn't hand Mastema a loophole by accident. If God is the one who decided the ratio, 9 bound, 1 free, then the 1 spirit left roaming wasn't an oversight in the plan. It was always part of it. Here's where the investigation actually turns, because the very next verse answers the question everyone should be asking at this point. Why would God allow even 1/10 of that evil to remain free at all? And the answer isn't what you'd expect from a story about demons. The text says God already knew these remaining spirits would not walk in uprightness, so before a single affliction ever reached another human being, he commanded one of his own angels to teach Noah every medicine for the diseases those spirits would cause. Not after the sickness came, before it. The remedy existed in the plan at the exact same moment the danger did. Think about what that actually means. God didn't wait for Noah's family to suffer and then respond with mercy after the fact. He built the cure directly into the same conversation where the danger was permitted to exist at all. Protection arriving in the same breath as the threat, not running to catch up behind it. And notice exactly what Noah was taught, because the text is specific about 2 things, not 1. He wasn't only given the medicines for the diseases those spirits would cause. He was taught their seductions as well, the methods, not just the symptoms, which means the book Noah wrote down wasn't simply a list of herbs for physical sickness. It was a manual for recognizing exactly how the remaining 10th operates, the tricks as well as the wounds they leave behind. Noah is given the entire body of that knowledge, every plant, every remedy, every counter to what those remaining spirits would try to do to his descendants. And he writes it all down, every word, in a single book. And here's the second twist stacked directly onto the first, because of everyone Noah could have given that book to. he gives it to exactly one son, Shem. Not because Shem needed it more than his brothers, but because the text says Noah loved him above all the rest, meaning the very knowledge that could stand against Mastema's remaining tenth was never distributed evenly. It was entrusted, passed down a specific line, on purpose, the same way the danger itself had been permitted on purpose. Everything that came after that moment, every generation, every family, every nation that would eventually trace itself back through Shem's line, inherited a defense their cousins never received, simply because one father chose to hand his most important possession to one particular son. So ask what that actually means for the afflictions still moving through the world right now, the sicknesses and seductions the text says that surviving tenth was never stopped from causing. What does it mean that provision for it was written down before the first case of it ever appeared? What does it mean that the remedy has been sitting inside the story this entire time, passed hand to hand, long before you ever heard Mastema's name? And what does it mean that the very negotiation that let danger remain in the world is the same negotiation that guaranteed an answer for it would remain right alongside it, that the two were never separate decisions at all, but one single plan, spoken in the same breath? Here's what no remaining tenth of anything can ever undo. Every affliction Mastema's spirits were ever permitted to cause was already met in the same breath by a provision written into the plan before it began. And centuries later, that same pattern repeats one final time. Except this time, the remedy isn't a book of herbs handed to one favored son. It's a cure offered to every son and daughter who will take it. And Jesus never needed permission from Mastema to give it. So which one are you actually standing closer to right now? Still waiting on an affliction to catch up with you, or already holding the provision that was written into the plan before you ever needed it? If that just changed how you see the whole story, like and subscribe, because next time we open the exact book Noah handed to Shem and trace where it went from there.